Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland, and this video is about interviews to gain admission to Oxford University. So if you apply and you're summoned to an interview, you'll spend 2 or 3 days in Oxford University living one of the colleges. This is intended for undergraduate applicants. I might do a separate one for postgraduate applicants. So dress up. People tend to wear a suit or something formal. It's not a rule, nobody actually says that, but it won't hurt to dress formally. And on the list, and you'll be addressed as Mr. or Ms. They're very feminist. For 20 years they've been putting MS, not Miss, or even Mrs. There we are. So you will be brought to your interview by someone in that college where you're staying who's helping you out. They might give you something to read for a few minutes before you go in, and then quiz you about that. In my case, it was an extract from the diary of Samuel Pepys about the Great Fire of London, because that was for history. It might be something in another language or whatever. If it was one of the scientific subjects, it might be something pertinent to that. Sometimes they give you nothing to read to prepare. There may have been a test that you had to sit that day or the day before. Anyway. Some people are observant Muslims, and women going in headscarves, nothing to worry about. Nobody's going to object to that. Or if you wear clothing of another culture, if you're a Sikh gentleman wearing a turban, no one would object to that. So it's a place which is almost entirely devoid of religious or racial prejudice. So have no fear on that account. So you might be interviewed by one person. It might be a panel of 2 or 3 people. One of them might take a lead. So just the courtesies are to be observed, that you shake hands, that you are polite, you speak formally, you make eye contact when you speak. Nothing unusual, just be mannerly. And they're not trying to terrify you. You hear all sorts of myths about bizarre things they've done to try and scare people. And I suspect these stories are bogus, as I've indicated, and made up by people who didn't make the grade and want to create excuses. Now, even at the best of times, it's a daunting experience because the university has an intimidating reputation as one of the top universities on the planet. Anyway, so if you're doing a foreign language, they will address you in the language which you're applying to study. If, for instance, you want to read Arabic and you've never learnt Arabic, they're not going to speak to you in that language. They might test your ability in another language, for instance, French, if you said you can speak that one. So what are some of the bog standard questions? Well, it's not difficult to guess why. Why do you want to attend Oxford University? All right? So you have sensible answers to that. Think about it beforehand. I won't supply potential answers in this video. I might do so in a subsequent one. Why do you want to come to this particular college? Remember, for undergraduates, there are 35 colleges you could apply to. Why do you pick this one? Sometimes you didn't pick that one. You might have applied to another one, but they sent you over, in which case that question shan't be asked. Or you might have made an open application, whereas you don't specify a college and they just allot you to one. That maximises your chance of getting in because they're putting you towards a college with relatively few applicants. Why do you want to read this subject? So have a well thought out and articulate answer to that. Don't be afraid to pause for a few seconds before we go on, sometimes to interrogate the question and ask them to explain more of what they want. Now, if it's a really straightforward one, then you can't do that. Why do you want to come to Oxford? Well, if you can't understand plain English, then you've got a problem. You will have submitted some academic work beforehand, some essays or whatever the nature of work is in your chosen field, and they will, of course, discuss those. So be prepared to talk about it, to defend things, your line of argument, but perhaps to recognise their weaknesses too. We would like to see that you understand that there was a different point of view that you might not entirely share, things like that. I suppose they generally don't want people who are completely categorical. They might ask about your reading beyond the subject. Your UCAS personal statement, be prepared to be quizzed on that so you can know it backwards. What are some of the obvious questions arising over what you said there? What do you think you might want to do when you graduate? Well, you don't have a definite answer. You might suggest 2 or 3 possible jobs. Having absolutely no idea at all is unimpressive. And if you say a certain career, such as being a solicitor, you don't have to stick to it. 4 years later, they're not going to oblige you to do the job that you said you would do. But if you're an intelligent, fairly ambitious person, you might have a reasonably good idea what you might like to do in the longer term. Don't come across as incredibly conceited and say, well, I want your job, I'm going to be a professor, like that. What else? They might ask you about other things you do, extracurricular activities such as music, drama, sport, and so forth. They don't ask about those extracurricular things that much. There we are. So be prepared for a few pleasantries. If there's some novels, films, or anything like that somehow relevant to your subject, for instance, it was history, they might ask your opinion about this. Do you have any questions for me? That's a standard question at the end. And this is a question you should well ask if you have a sensible one. If you've got nothing sensible to ask, then don't ask anything at all. Like a moronic question might be, are there boys at this university? Yes, obviously there are. You've seen tons of them around. Or, am I allowed to come here if I'm whatever religion? Yes, you certainly are. Do you have a library? Would be an exceedingly moronic question. So you can think of a sensible question that you couldn't reasonably have found out yourself, then ask. Yeah. So they just want to see that you're a courteous, intelligent, eager person. Passion goes a long way to winning them over. Be a little bit energetic, making eye contact, looking from one person to the next. So care about it. Don't be frightened of it. Okay, they're not trying to scare you. If they did something outrageous to you, really insulting you, you'd have grounds for complaint. So they're heavily oversubscribed, often 5 applicants per place. And they're often people who are the tip top of their school, the pride of their school. So they're going to have to turn down a lot of outstanding applicants. So it's almost as though they're seeking an excuse. Is there anything less than perfect? Because they have to reject a lot of applicants, and the person has a right to know what was the reason why I didn't get a place and somebody else did. They've got to find a reason to turn you down. So don't give them a reason to turn you down. Have a pitch perfect performance. That's all.